Toto Wolff has just revealed that Mercedes will not write off this season in order to focus on the next set of regulations adjustments. The 52-year-old reveals that Mercedes' masterplan is to intend to maximize their success in both 2025 and 2026, rather than compromising one for the other. Leaving Russell and Antonelli with a car capable of winning a championship in 2025. But what will change for them? Can they build on their 4 wins from 2024 to challenge McLaren, Ferrari, and Red Bull in 2025? Mercedes has had a mixed bag of results during the past year. From one perspective, they can be content with the 4 victories they achieved in 2024. After failing to win a race in 2023, the German constructor made a significant improvement last season. However, at times they looked destined for more. Mercedes were undoubtedly the fastest team in the lead-up to the summer break, racing in Canada, Austria, the United Kingdom, and Spa. Upgrades to the W15 worked instantly, unleashing additional performance and punishing direct competitors, Ferrari and Red Bull, for remaining static. However, Toto Wolff's team was disappointed that their mid-season form was inconsistent. The W15's sensitivity to changing temperatures and wind conditions resurfaced as a limiting factor, eventually preventing Mercedes from placing higher than 4th in the standings. Even after late-season COTA enhancements, the results remained unpredictable. A strong 1-2 finish in Las Vegas was followed by less impressive showings in Qatar and Abu Dhabi. As a result, the Brackley-based team enters this year as a major uncertainty. There is also the question of planning for the 2026 requirements. In response, Toto Wolff emphasizes that Mercedes can strike a balance between 2025 and 2026. The Mercedes team principal feels that there is still something to play for as these regulations enter their final season. Sometimes it is much less complex than one thinks, he explained. Probably, the transition of people and capability into the 2026 regulations is going to happen a bit earlier than it would under stable regulations. But it's not going to be game-changing, Wolff explained. Nobody's going to switch the machines off in January unless you are really nowhere. We are fighting for victories and podiums and cannot write it off. Mercedes will examine more than just on-track performance with the W16 in the upcoming year. Kimi Antonelli's growth will be closely monitored by competitors and pundits alike. The 18-year-old joins Mercedes a few years after their peak of dominance, but the pressure of competing for race victories is still likely to be a significant role. Antonelli has a strong reference with George Russell. This implies Antonelli's ability, as well as whether Toto Wolff was correct in promoting him so quickly, will be determined quite soon. Fortunately for the Italian, the Brackley squad enters 2025 as something of a wild card. If they struggle to catch Ferrari and McLaren over the winter, Mercedes can console themselves by focusing on their potential in 2026. Toto Wolff's squad appears to have the means to get started with the next generation of Formula One cars. Mercedes, on the other hand, remain in contention for the title. If James Allison's technical staff can overcome the inconsistencies that have plagued prior years, Russell and Antonelli might become regulars at the front in 2025, especially if they have a great winter opposed to their opponents. What also helps is that Mercedes has learned a lot for the first time in this generation of cars. In previous years, they couldn't figure out why the car did what it does, but in 2024, they look to have cracked the code. This means that despite 4 victories in 2024, Mercedes is dissatisfied with its season results. Several factors have hindered the Silver Arrow's development, including not just a W15 diva, but also numerous issues, particularly at the start of the competition, which have slowed his progress in comparison to other opponents, forcing them to postpone updates. If we go back to 2023, at the end of a season dominated by Red Bull, the goal of the other teams was to expand and annoy the Milton Keynes team in 2024. For this reason, 4 victories may have been a welcome boost in Ferrari, Mercedes, and McLaren's development. Despite the 4 victories, a team like Mercedes cannot be content with their 2024 season, especially given the path taken by McLaren and Ferrari, who fought for the title until the final race. The W15 has witnessed only brief bursts of competition, particularly in the middle of the season, while the rest of the tournament has frequently struggled to establish the consistency required to compete with the best teams, proving the limitations imposed by a small operating window. Essentially, the W15 has demonstrated that it is not a slow car in the correct circumstances, but this has also been its most significant shortcoming. Furthermore, the car's development has been as up and down as its performance, as Mercedes, like other teams, has had to deal with revisions that have not yielded the expected results. According to the team, however, this is a more complex issue, compounded by the fact that the W15 experienced some issues at the start of the season, slowing its growth. At the start of the championship, Ferrari demonstrated excellent solidity by placing itself as the second fixed force, closely followed by a McLaren that knew it still had a lot of potential to express. Mercedes was immediately stopped by its great enemy of this ground effect era, bouncing. If the Sakhir track's peculiarities helped it to mask some issues, the rebounding in Saudi Arabia caused the car to fail, particularly in the fast corners. At this moment, the car's issues became more serious. On the one hand, the unpleasant bouncing problem had to be solved, but the car's behavior had yet to be fully understood, because, like Ferrari, Mercedes had revised several components of the design during the winter. This understanding process went longer than other teams, and while the latter introduced changes in later GPs, the team was too late. The team later explained why. Mercedes trackside engineering director Andrew Shovlin believes the team's variable condition throughout the 2024 Formula One season was due to a setback in development as it attempted to recover from a difficult start. He claims Mercedes's upgrades were frequently out of sync with those of its top 4 competitors, allowing it to remain competitive for a few rounds before falling behind in the pecking order after the other teams debuted new parts. I think the big one is development, and if you look at when we brought our updates compared to our main competitors, we were often bringing our big package a couple of races later, Shovlin explained. But if we brought it earlier, it would be a smaller package. So the fact is, on average, over a season, we've not been quick enough when we deliver an update. We had a few races where we were competitive, the teams were trying to beat them, bring theirs, and they moved back ahead. That's definitely the main mechanism. I think the start of the season was poor. The car wasn't well balanced, wasn't working across a range of tracks. We got on top of those issues over the first 7 or so races, and then I think we've just been in a normal development race over the remainder of the year. Shovlin noted that one of the team's priorities for its 2025 car is to reduce tyre overheating at the back axle, which he believes is an area where Mercedes falls short of its front-running competitors. Although the W15 was able to bring its tyres up to temperature faster than others in cooler conditions, this resulted in quicker thermal degradation on warmer circuits. He also mentioned Mercedes's challenges to optimize their car around a specific ride height, since the W15 struggled on bumpier courses. Rear overheating, that's an area where I don't think we are as good as McLaren, Red Bull, or Ferrari, and that's probably affected us most recently at tracks like Singapore, adds Shovlin. So we're looking at what we can do to get temperature out of the rear tyres. And any work in that area is twofold. One is, can we put less temperature in? And the other one is, can we take more temperature out? But that's clearly an area where, on a Sunday, we had a big gap to the front in some of those races, and definitely an area of focus for next year. It's very fair to say on those bumpier tracks, we do suffer more often. You can do analysis on how high people are running, and I don't think we're wildly different to anyone else, but ride is an area that we've been focusing on with these regulations. In general, we've made progress, but the whole thing of development in Formula One is fixing problems, and can you fix them quicker than your competitors? And that's how you get to the front. This will undoubtedly be one of the major limits to avoid in 2025. Having a solid starting point will be critical, especially in the final year of this regulatory cycle. If the car does not prove to be as competitive as hoped at the start of the season, the teams may move first to the 2026 project, devoting fewer resources during the championship to the 2025 single-seater. So, will they be title challengers in 2025 now that they've decided to stay focused on this upcoming season? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.